Cal Zethmeyer for the Z-Files out on the road. This time we're in a conference room out here at the Bob Sykes Crestview Airport, and we're in the facilities of CTAP, the Crestview Technology Air Park. I remember that right, Dennis Mitchell?
You got it exactly right.
Okay. And Dennis, we've got some things we're going to talk about, and also with us, a brand new proud grandpa, and the grandbaby's got the name Paul. Is that
Yes,
pretty
sir.
good?
Yes, sir. It's quite an honor. My daughter, my youngest daughter just gave birth, the second child, and she named him Paul, so that's really quite an honor.
Well, great. This is Dr. Paul Hsu, who we're going to chat with. We have talked with before. We got to catch up, because when we talked with you a long time ago, we talked about how you had a $500 scholarship that in essence began your career and your life here in the United States.
Yeah, that's correct. I was very blessed. This country, obviously, it's truly a land of opportunity for a young immigrant like myself. I came over with $500 in my pocket, and I took every opportunity. I knew that time how important the education, so I took advantage on that. Yeah.
And that eventually brought you from somewhere out in the Midwest down to Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and then you blossomed into a career and an industry that you created, and a lot of happy employees when you decided, okay, somebody else can have this big building and all the headaches to go with it. But I know some of the people who worked for you, and they've talked about the generosity you had when you finished up with that project there. But now you're back here with another multiple new projects we want to talk about.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe in STEM education. That stands for science, technology, engineering, mathematics, because I believe if we let our kids to major in any of these four fields, be much easier for them to become an entrepreneur in this great country of ours. So, yeah.
Now, from that $500 scholarship as a young man, you just announced here this recently at a chamber breakfast. How many thousands of dollars has this gentleman given away now to youngsters and to teachers in our community?
Well, he has given the bulk of it, but also we had other folks contributing as well. So our total is now, since March of 2015, when we gave the first, we gave the first dollars, it's up to $42,000 going directly to North County science and math teachers. Okay. So it's been an interesting process. Dr. Hsu, if you hang around Dr. Hsu very long, you'll find out things get real interesting really fast. And I'll never forget the night he called me and he says, "I have this idea." I said, "Okay." He said, I want to give some money to science and math teachers." I said, "Great." He says, "In North County." I thought, well, that's really refreshing. That's a great idea. And so I said, "Well, what do you have in mind?" He says, "Well, I want to give $5,000 to a teacher." I thought, my goodness. He says, "Oh, no. I want to give two $5,000 checks to teachers." And so when I got up off the floor, I said, "Paul, it sounded like you said two $5,000 checks." But anyway, we began a program. The chamber let us form a committee, and we put together a criteria. And for the third year in a row, we've gone out to select the teachers who are in math and science, but also the allied technologies. Also added to this program beginning last September, we put a robotics coaches program in because we had identified through some meetings with people in the area that's where we probably needed to get the help at the elementary and middle school level. That would probably have the biggest impact on women getting into and staying into the tech programs. The job shortages in the future in these tech areas is what Dr. Hsu is concerned about. We probably can't change the percentage of men going in there, but we can certainly make a big impact on the percentage of women, which is where we'll make the most gains in the total numbers. Okay. So that's where that program got started last year, and we're encouraging other people in the community, just like they have for the teachers program for high school, to join us and help support these robotics coaches at the elementary and middle school levels. And if you've not been to a robotics competition, the drones or the robots for these elementary and middle school kids, it is absolutely amazing the level of competence these folks have, the enthusiasm. You have 200 or 300 kids on a Saturday morning out there at Davidson Middle School at some of these competitions, highly focused and very productive. I look at this and I'm just in awe. I mean, of what they accomplished, all done by volunteers. These people have not received a dime for all this that they put together. Some really great names in the community that have really helped us a whole lot. And so Dr. Hsu has helped us push in that direction and try to get some more support, community-wide support for this kind of training and technology.
Well, I know I did a Z-Files over at Davidson when they had their Okaloosa Day, and of course I was amazed at the stuff they were doing with the Lego robotics program. And I think several of the young ladies were involved in that.
Exactly, and they are at that age. You know, they're not sensitive one way or the other. But what we did find out, the research shows that the earlier that women start in the tech programs, the more likely they are to stay in the tech programs. If you wait till their high school or college era, that the percentages of sustainability are not good. So you start them out in 4th, 5th, 6th grade. That way it becomes part of the culture to them. They feel normal in there. They have no issues about that. And quite frankly, they're pretty darn good at what they do.
Right. Now, Dr. Hsu, back on the back wall, folks, you may have seen a couple of pictures. You've been hanging around Washington, D.C., I understand, here a little bit. And I'm hoping you're putting a bug in the ear of some of those folks up there about funding technology. I think the announcement the president just made about the amount of dollars going into the defense needs of this country will definitely mean our area will see its share of that with the work that is done here in the panhandle of Florida.
True. I was honored to get selected by President Trump to help him on his campaign. I was a member of the Asian American Donald Trump's team, so I was very honored to do that. And I can tell you this, though, Cal, President Trump really understands the importance of education. Because I talked to Mike Pence, I talked to him about that. See, in year maybe 2002 or 3, which is about 5 or 6 years from now, this great country of ours will probably going to generate about 3 million high-tech and high-pay jobs.
Okay.
And it's tremendous. But if you look at the high school senior, there's a less than 10% of the high school senior even express the interest in STEM field. So that's really a challenge. So we really need to incentivize the educators. Education is important, but without the educators, there's no education. So that's why when I get together with Dennis and we really see the need for this. One of the few ways we can enhance the North Okaloosa County is to enhance the science and the math teachers. So that's the reason why we did this. So hopefully we'll do a small positive impact to the North Okaloosa County.
Well, as you wave the Dr. Paul Hsu magic wand over North Okaloosa and this area out here around this fabulous big airport that's out here and everything here, and your facility here at CTAP, what kind of things can you even picture what could be happening? What could be in some buildings would be out here? What would they be making or designing or doing?
Well, CTAP, my partner, my very good partner, Bob Keller, and I, we developed this place. It's about 20 acres together, and we hope this can be the center for the technology growth for Crisfield, for North Okaloosa County. We have a state-of-art hangar right now, and we just heard that the local college, NWF, is thinking seriously about to establish an A&P program at CTAP. Okay. My God, I cannot see anything more important to have an A&P program to educate our kids in this area to support the aerospace growth. You see, we can use, in the next 5 years, we can use about 200 aircraft machinists, aircraft maintenance people. And we really don't have room for 200 philosophers. Okay. So I think this is important. So
now, for our listeners who may not know, explain what A&P would mean to the general person out there.
It's an aircraft maintenance and aircraft repair program.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so neither of us have been through that school, but I have flown aircraft and Mr. Keller over there, so that's an important job, though, in making sure those airplanes are safe to fly.
Well, it is, and it's more than just the airframe and power plant, which is the heart of that program, the certification, and is, of course, to the aviation industry a standard. Our local school in Northwest Florida, Dr. Stevenson, is very much tuned into that. There is truly a paradigm shift that has occurred in general education. 20 years ago, it was a matter of how many PhDs we could produce in some fields, and today the emphasis is shifting rather rapidly over to, well, do you have an industry certification? And that can lead you to a degree related to it, but the industry certification is what counts first. So their plans are rich and full for this program. Actually, if you think about it, in fact, we talked to Dr. Stevenson yesterday. He and all of his folks, Dr. Sherwood, Dr. Gerald, Dr. Williams, were all at the Teachers Award program that morning. They're very interested in the math and science teachers and how they impact it, because that's their incoming students. And Crestview is by far their fastest growing facility. They are busting at the seams, so to speak. And so the A&P school, if one can be established, would actually help them relieve some of that pressure, as well as bring a whole new dimension. Now, their plans are, as I said, amazingly wide. They would like to see, along with the A&P portion of it, their robotics, electronics, auto, welding, and even diesel schools to be tied in with it. So we're talking about a major certification center right here in Crestview that will be feeding out to all these industries that we have that are going to be coming to this area. It's a big deal in a lot of ways, but as Dr. Hsu has pointed out, if you're not ready educationally, you're not going to be ready. So if a company's going to come here, one of the first questions they're going to ask, and we've been in that room before, well, how's your educational feed? Are we going to be able to hire enough people 5 years down the road with the right kinds of certifications to fulfill what we need to get done here? We have always been weak in that area before, but we are now moving ahead and going to fill that gap quickly, I think. And with that, you're going to see a lot of companies that may not have been able to come here before will now be willing to make those commitments.
Now, we're talking about going beyond what the high school programs are, and I guess you're looking at having things, and already we do have, within the high schools and middle schools in what's referred to as the choice concept.
Right, and there's actually a blurry line now between high school and college. Many of our high school students are, in fact, simultaneously college students. Juniors and seniors particularly, and these programs are the same. Certifications, if you do a Microsoft certification, doesn't matter whether it's in high school or in college, it's the same certification. But blending these together and linking them so that it's a smooth transition from a child who's in the 9th or 10th grade and let them move on through there, it allows for them to make choices earlier in life so they can enter the market with much more in their own treasury to offer as an employee.
Okay. So then, of course, you want to make sure that the students from grade school on up really are getting these skills and advancing them to the point that there's also maybe the college level classes here. But again, somebody's got to teach them.
That's exactly right. The educators are very important because they play a very crucial role for shaping our national identity. The reason we done business, the reason we look at the social issues, the culture issues, the moral issues, is all because of the education. So I think there's nothing more important to enhance our future by having a great educators to teach our kids.
Well, now, with your connections within the school system as you've had over the years, has there been an increase in the number of positions in teaching in the North County schools in all of these areas?
No, I don't think there's really been a big increase because in the public schools, those are based on FTEs. How many students do you have? The problem we still have is encouraging enough students to go into those areas early on so that they are in the 9th and 10th grade already taking the kinds of courses that will support them. It's a question mark. Right now, we have opportunities to get some things done. There's a cultural shift afoot, and I'll give you a good example. Another thing that the Hsu Family Educational Foundation participates in, besides these teachers awards, is also been supporting the foundation of the Chamber of Commerce. and they have now come up with a fundraiser that's aimed at just providing scholarships for only technical certifications. This is new. We don't know how to do this very well. I've been involved in giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars of college scholarships in environmental science. I mean, that's common. We know how to do that culturally very well. We don't know how to give a dime away for the certification kind of programs. But Dr. Stevenson from Northwest Florida has said that he's going to help assist us in coming up with some criteria so that the foundation, who the chair is Dr. LaRose from FAMU, and we're going to figure out a way to make this thing happen. And it's a learning curve. We'll get started. We're going to raise some money, and then we're going to go through the process. As I said, the Hsu Foundation has been so generous already helping us, but we're on our way, and those things are going. Part of the shift in how we see educational flows.
Okay. So, what is being done to reach these really young ones, the grade schoolers, before they even get to middle school, with getting that interest started?
Well, the robotics is the way to go. These kids, this is just another toy. Maybe you and I had Legos or something, and
Lincoln Logs.
Lincoln Logs. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. And don't you wish we still had those? How valuable would those sets be now?
Lincoln Logs and Lionel trains from the 50s, fella.
But Lego has gone to an international level program. You were talking about a lot of people have gotten involved in this from the Lego company and similar operations for these robots. Very, very smart electronics. It's also part of a tourism issue for us here. Putting these conferences together and these competitions, if you go to Orlando, you could see as many as 20,000 people that will show up from around the world in a place like Orlando for some of these competitions. Well, we're a tourist capital, if you will. No reason why we can't have technological tourism. So we are looking for ways to make that happen. Tim Sexton out there at the middle school, Davidson Middle School, the programs he's put together, hundreds of kids. We had 22 different schools represented just a few weeks ago at one of those programs. 22 schools. That's a lot of schools for a program. They all traveled to our area, to Crestview, and it's good for everybody. Could you imagine if we could put 2,000 people coming to one of those for the high school level or so? And there are people in this county who have done and are doing a superb job at pushing us in that direction. It pays its own way, if you will.
And I think of an area that I can relate to that you can be reaching out to is in the scouting program. Recently I had to go to a doctor to check out why my throat box was getting irritated, and I happened to pick up in his office some Boys Life magazines. Now, I remember Boys Life from the 50s, and I got to thinking, well, Batman and Superman were in my Boys Life in the mid-50s, and now we got Batman Lego's movie, right?
Yes, exactly. But the technology is just everywhere. It's infusing. It'll become easier to attract kids younger ages into the tech field. They don't know they're being attracted to the tech field. They just know it's fun, and they can have a great time, and they're learning all the time. The discipline that they will develop through these kinds of electronics programs will shape the rest of their lives. They're just having fun, but they also are shaping their destiny, if you will.
So, Dr. Hsu, what are your goals here for the next 5 years in this community?
Well, education. I want to see more and more kids from the North Okaloosa County to really get involved and to start develop interest in the science and technology, engineering, and mathematics field, because these are the future. I totally agree with Dennis. To educate kids in the technology field, there's just make it fun. Let them get them interest to learn. So our job is to lead a horse to the water. Once we let them see the water, just very little control when they're going to drink it, how much they're going to drink it. But as long as they know the water's there, I think there's a hope.
Okay. Well, an awesome next thing we're going to talk about, and we're going to leave the conference room and go out to the aircraft hangar and look at an aircraft. These students who are going to be training on some of these things need something to work on. to tinker with, and you've got a partner here in this who's come up with a donation to make that happen.
Yes, and let me tell you how that worked. I was having dinner with Bob Keller one evening, and we were talking about the A&P school and the progress, and this requires a legislative appropriation. It's a big deal. It's complicated to make it happen, and he brought up the point that one of the problems the schools often have is getting good quality equipment to work with, and they have a requirement. They have to have, I believe it's 2 FAA-approved pieces of equipment to work on. And I just asked the question. I said, well, what do you think we can do to fix that? And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll donate a Saberliner 40. And so when I got up off the floor, I said, Bob, it sounded like you said you were going to donate a Saberliner 40. But this is amazing. So he asked me to call the school the next day, and you can imagine the reaction from Dr. Sherwood and Dr. Gerald. They were more than a little pleased, because this is a breakthrough. This school, if it can get it off the ground, now has this huge community support with a high-tech machine, and we're talking about a perfectly good jet aircraft that's got all the equipment you'd ever dream for. They can open up any of the educational directions they need to go for that. So it's really a big deal.
It's a bit breezy where we are, folks, as we've come out here in front of the big hangar out here at Sunshine Aero, I think is still the official name.
Right, yeah, Sunshine Aero Industries Incorporated.
And that's Bob Keller's voice you're hearing and you're seeing, and we're in front of this aircraft that we just mentioned. So, Bob, tell the people who are watching this and, of course, hearing about it on the radio, what is this aircraft that's behind us?
Well, that's a Sabre 60. I have 3 Sabre 40s, a Sabre 60, and a couple of Sabre 65s. Okay. This particular airplane and the 40s, because of a new FAA regulation about noise, have banned these airplanes from U.S. airspace. So that's why we had to start replacing these with Sabre 65s. But it's a perfectly good jet. It still flies. It just can't fly with passengers around the U.S. anymore. So then we got to talking to Paul about the new A&P school. They need good equipment to practice riveting and putting panels on and working on the avionics equipment and the power supplies and the engines. The engines, of course, everything still works on the airplane. So with an airplane like this, you either give it to Quest and they chop it up in little pieces and sell it for aluminum, or somebody that, like the college, that can use it, we'll give it to them and they'll make good use of it in this area.
Okay. So are you going to be there when they start taking it apart and go back to your young days in manufacturing and say, maybe let's see if I can work on one of these things? Some little circuit card in there you can take apart and backward engineer?
Exactly. This is a great material for the student to learn. So I'm just so proud of my partner, Bob Keller. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And when is the time frame for when this will actually be happening out here? Do you know? What's got to happen to make this happen?
I'm gonna let Dennis Mitchell talk about this.
Okay, Dennis, what is the timeline for making this or whatever, and this school being out here somewhere?
Well, probably about 2 years at best. It's going to start with a legislative appropriation, and the school has been busy putting together their nuts and bolts plans for this. And this is, again, long term. This is not a quick and easy thing. This is a beginning step to get the appropriation for the A&P school. And once that's done, there's a process, pretty long process with the FAA for that to happen, about a 2-year lookout time frame. So they're prepared to do this. They're very, very serious about this. They do see how this is going to come together. But the community support that we've had from folks like Bob Keller and Paul Hsu to help get this started, and we have some legislators who spent the time. Mel Ponder and J.R. Williamson, Doug Broxton, and George Gaynor all spent time learning about this project. This is not something they just breezed in and out of. They spent some hours going over it, and so when they go to session here in a couple of weeks, they're taking some real ammunition with them to explain why this is a very important thing for not just this area but all of Florida to have going for us.
Fantastic. So hopefully we'll be out here one day for a groundbreaking. Is that the hopeful plan?
That's exactly right, and it's as I said, it's a big deal for the area's industries, because they need to have this kind of educational integration set in place for us. It's not just North County. A lot of folks think it's only for North County. It's not. It will affect the entire region.
Okay. So for you who are parents or grandparents, your job right now is to motivate some of those youngsters who are in elementary schools, middle schools, to check out the robotics programs and some of the other things that go along with it.
Right. It is a matter of making sure the kids know those opportunities are available to them everywhere. And that's what Dr. Hsu is about. He wants to make sure all the schools, when we started with the program about 3 years ago up at Laurel Hill, put together a technology demonstration up there, and it was impressive. And from that, we have really seen a change in the attitudes about how people feel about STEM education.
Fantastic. Well, folks, you heard about it here on the Z-Files. I know we'll be back to talk about it again. But, fellas, thanks for the tour out here and even for bringing in sound effects for us.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's what happens when you live at an airport. They do make noise here and there.
So, folks, another reason why we do these programs is to let you know about good things happening in our community.